Welcome to episode number 181 of the Marine Layer podcast. We welcome on Mariners prospect Danny Wirchansky, the final member of the AA Arkansas Travelers rotation, to join us here on the podcast. We'll talk about Danny's incredible story that led him to leading the Texas League in ERA in his first season in the Mariners organization. We'll discuss his friendship with the rest of that AA rotation and what's clicked with him within the Mariners organization. We'll also dive deeper into what it will take for the Mariners to sign Roki Sasaki.
Here's a heads up for you guys and a reminder before we start this podcast. Make sure, if you're listening to these episodes, you're hitting download, you're rating, reviewing, leaving it 5 stars. It really does do us a big favor if you do. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That is the best way you can support us and the channel. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure to like the video, drop a comment, and then on social media, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. 1-1 from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game at 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network, recording here on Monday evening, November 11th. I just need to say, off the top, how refreshing it is that we have a top-tier free agent that the Mariners could absolutely be in the running for, like, become a reality within a week. How exciting is that? Wow, how exciting is it for the content space? How exciting is it for us to talk about here? And actually think about it as something that could be an actual reality.
I don't know if it's a reality within a week, but it's a reality.
Well, I mean, okay, let me clarify what I mean by that. He wasn't officially going to be posted last week. Now he is.
That is true. And in that regard, it's very exciting. Very, very exciting. You know why? Because we don't get to sit here and say hashtag not a smart strategy about Roki Sasaki. Because it is literally their strategy. They have to pay no money to get somebody that's incredibly controllable and the potential to be an absolutely elite pitcher. So, no excuses, boys. None.
So, let's dive into it. Lyle, what is it going to take for the Mariners to sign Roki Sasaki? Now that we have the details, now that he's going to be posted, like, what are the details here?
The details of what it would take for the Mariners or the details of Roki Sasaki? Where do we want to start?
Let's start with Roki himself.
We touched on it a little bit, actually more than a little bit, on Friday's mailbag because we spent a good amount of time talking about Roki and the idea of him getting posted and the idea of the Mariners being in on him. Well, one of those thresholds has now been cleared, like TJ said, because he is officially, as of this weekend, expected to be posted. That was announced. He is coming stateside and expected to be in Major League Baseball in 2025. Who is Roki Sasaki? Let me just start with a banger of a one-liner. He may be the best pitcher to ever come out of Japan. Plain, simple, right there. Let me throw it at you guys. He may be the best pitcher to ever come out of Japan. Better than Yu Darvish, better than Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who just got $325 million a year ago. As a pure pitcher, he may be better than Shohei. Not a better overall player, because Shohei also goes 50-50 with the bat. But he may be a better pure pitcher than Shohei. Roki Sasaki is 23 years old, throws 103 miles an hour at his peak, a splitter that is absolutely devastating. It is a wipeout splitter. And if you ask people in the industry, there are people that will say that they will compare Roki to Jacob deGrom. That is not a light comp. We're not talking middle of the rotation starters when making these comps. No, you're talking a guy that at his peak might have been the most dominant starter ever.
He's got a pretty dynamic slider, too. It's not just 2 pitches. He's got 3 pretty overpowering, pretty overpowering pitches. Mm-hmm. The fastball does get up to 102 miles an hour. The splitter's devastating. It would be among the best splitters to grace Major League Baseball whenever he comes over and whenever he throws it. And then the slider gets a 47% whiff rate, Lyle. Like those are the three pitches. Oh no, sorry, only 40. Only 40%. So only would be a top tier strikeout pitch, and it's his third pitch. Just incredible. There are definitely not total red flags, but concerns with him coming over. It's a real thing, Lyle, that he just hasn't pitched a whole lot. He's almost off the Brian Wu tree of getting sort of nurtured along. For Wu's case, it was due to injuries. For Sasaki's case, it was due to youth. The most innings he's ever thrown in a season is 129 and a third. And he did that when he was 20 years old in 2022. He only threw... How many innings did he throw? 111 innings last year. Number slipped my mind. 111 innings last year. He's thrown barely over 200 the last 2 years combined. On top of that, his velocity really dipped down last year. It dropped 2 miles an hour on average. And that was across the board, not just on his fastball. Dealt with some shoulder fatigue, dealt with some oblique issues as well. Now, these aren't deal breakers for teams. I don't think it's going to subtract from his future value 6 years down the line after the 2030 season, when he'll be eligible for the contract. But when you look at his numbers this year and he puts up a quote-unquote worst career season, it's for a reason. He struggled with some injuries. Doesn't mean the talent is all the way there.
Would you like to read what his career worst season was this year? If you don't have it in front of you, I can say it.
His career worst season is a 2.35 ERA.
Yeah. Injuries, whatever. I don't care. You know why? Because some of you might be sitting there saying, if you didn't listen to Friday's episode, or if you're new to the Roki Sasaki train and are just trying to learn a little bit about him, you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, 23 years old, 102, 103 mile an hour fastball, 80 grade splitter, Jacob deGrom comps. Well, the Mariners are not signing him in a million years. Not only do they already have the best rotation in baseball, but he's going to cost a ton of money. And I listened to the Marine Layer podcast, and those guys have been saying all offseason about guys that cost money, #not a smart strategy. You'd be correct. However, Roki Sasaki is not eligible to make the big bucks yet. He is not eligible for that big contract the way Yamamoto was when he came over a season ago. No, because he is coming over early, he is in the same boat as Shohei Ohtani was when he came over in 2017. Because he's leaving Japan early and hasn't played his 6 full seasons in Japan, he is not eligible for the big contract, which means he is only eligible to make league minimum salary in his first contract with additional money that's added on through the international bonus pool of whatever the team he signs with can give him. The maximum amount of whatever that team he signs with can give him. So, in other words, the Mariners would be paying Roki Sasaki for, I would say 6 years, but not really 6 because he'll get to arbitration. For the first 3 years, they would be paying him league minimum salary and some signing bonus from their international slot pool. I don't care about injuries for 1 second with this, because if you sign the guy and it doesn't work out, what does it cost you? It costs you a fraction of what you're going to have to pay Mitch Haniger this year. If Roki Sasaki threw 5 innings for the Mariners in 2025 and happened to get injured, that would suck, but it costs them nothing financially.
No, it wouldn't. And let's get into the details of that. I do have one more stat I want to throw out for Roki Sasaki that made me kind of chuckle as I was looking at it earlier today. So he threw 202 combined innings the last 2 years. You know how many home runs he gave up as a guy who is 4-seam fastball, slider, and splitter, right? The splitter's the only pitch that's a home run negator. Lau, how many home runs do you think he gave up?
I'm going to go somewhere between 0 and 2.
Gave up 3 home runs in 202 innings. I mean, 3 homers in 200 innings. Yeah. Like, you expect this from a guy who throws a sinker. Roki Sasaki does not throw a sinker. He throws a pitch that just elevates, and that's insane. Like, one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Right. Oh, yeah, by the way, you know he's only 23?
Yeah.
You know he's only 23?
Yeah. Let me say this, too. 2 things, and then we'll dive more into the topic. On your point about that he dealt with injuries this year and he hasn't had a full workload of major league innings, we're going to get into that. We are going to get into that later in this segment and what the Mariners could potentially do. I will also note that while Japan, they say, is equivalent to AAA play, now the top-end talent's the top-end talent. We've seen some of the best players in the world come from Japan. But the league itself, they say, is more on par with about AAA play. If you need more of a sales pitch on Roki Sasaki, go watch what he did in the World Baseball Classic. Go pull up those games. Go pull up those highlights. He was absolutely dominant.
Let's dive into the nitty-gritty of actually signing him. There's some complications here. It's not Roki Sasaki could hear out all 30 teams, and every team has an equal amount to give him. That's not true. And there's also 2 different signing periods between now and by the time spring training starts. So let's start by highlighting the international, the Major League Baseball's international signing period, which runs from January 15th to December 15th every single year. We are currently in the 2024 international signing period for the Mariners and for all the other teams in Major League Baseball. The Mariners right now have dedicated all but 19,500 of their current international signing pool for the 2024 signing period. So if Roki Sasaki were to get posted today here on Monday, November 11th, the Mariners could only offer him $19,500 as a signing bonus. That's what they have available to them. The Dodgers, in this current signing period, have the most money. So, Lyle, if they wanted it to be an absolute slam dunk that he goes to the Dodgers, they would post him right now. Because the posting window, the window after you post the player, is only 45 days. The signing period would be, well, the new signing period would not have started yet. Therefore, the teams cannot use their 2025 signing period money yet to sign him after that point. So here's a date to circle. December 2nd. If the Mariners if Roki Sasaki gets posted after December 2nd, then that will leave a window for the Mariners to use their 2025 signing pool money, in which the Mariners have $7.5 million available right now, which is tied for the most in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to continue to get your hopes up as Mariners fans, Roki Sasaki's not supposed to be posted until at least after December 2nd. In fact, the reports we have right now is it may not happen until the middle of January. And if that's the case, yeah, they're in the clear. But the date to circle, TJ's right, December 2nd. If we can stretch this out for Roki a few more weeks, the Mariners are in the clear. Now, I will say this too. The Mariners, because there's not pen to paper yet with most of the guys in this 2024 class, they could, if they wanted to, back out of those deals and give the money to Roki Sasaki. So there is still a world they could choose to do that. I'm sure it wouldn't be their preference. I'm sure their preference would be, hey, just get it past December 2nd. But there's a world they could still make it happen. However, it makes things much easier if it can get past that December 2nd date or on that December 2nd date. Because they do have a couple exciting guys that they've got a lot of money attached to right now. You'll get familiar with these names soon enough because they're going to be circling around the Mariners pipeline articles and tweets, and you're going to hear about them. And once I get stateside, see them play in the next year or two. Their names are, the big one's Yorger Batista, who has the nickname The Beast. He's an outfielder, left-handed bat. He's top 5 in terms of rankings in this international class. The other one's named Kendry Martinez. He's a shortstop. Most of the Mariners' money is tied into those two guys, Yorger Batista, Kendry Martinez. But they could forfeit those deals if they chose to. They shouldn't have to because it sounds like Sasaki's not going to be posted for a bit. But if they chose to, they could.
And we try to make this all about the money, where it's like, oh, look, Mariners have the most, Mariners have the most, Mariners have the most, Mariners have the most. Doesn't really matter in this case, to be honest, though. Because if the money was really an issue for Roki, he would wait 2 years to get posted. So it's not about money.
Yeah, which then
it will be about where he's going to develop. And there's been a number of theories on where he would want to go and what fits for him. Let's run through a few of the options. We've talked about the Dodgers. They've got Yamamoto, and they've got Shohei Ohtani. That's as good of a sales pitch as you could ever accommodate. on top of all the endorsement money I'm sure those two make being in Los Angeles and the Dodgers being accepted almost as Japan's team because of those two players. Or you can go down to San Diego, where one of Roki Sasaki's very close friends, Yu Darvish, plays. Darvish is the one who taught Roki Sasaki his slider. They're both represented by the same agency. They're remarkably close. Like, those are the two options I think that get floated out there the most. Bilal, there was also a report that Roki has a almost specific preference on where he would like to play and what he's looking for.
Yeah, he does. And again, if you're a Mariners fan and you want to get yourself hyped up, buy into this. So what Jim Allen reported, who's a baseball writer and reporter in Tokyo, he tweeted that a source close with Sasaki said that a small market team that has a solid development setup and a future plan could be the best destination for him. Now, I hear that, and I think to myself, Seattle is a small market. Seattle's really close to Japan, as close as you can get in the U.S. Seattle's had a history of Japanese players like Ichiro, Iwakuma, Kenji Jojima, etc. Ichiro obviously being the headliner. Seattle's also had a better reputation than anybody over the last half decade of developing pitchers. You want a development plan, Roki? The Mariners have one. You want to stay healthy? The Mariners have kept their starters very healthy. Look at Brian Wu. Wu had injury problems. Even the first half of this year, he had injury problems. He had Tommy John in college. Brian Wu was remarkably healthy in the second half of the year. Logan Gilbert's been remarkably healthy. He hasn't missed a start. George Kirby doesn't miss starts. Bryce Miller doesn't really miss starts. Luis Castillo, until that hamstring injury late in the year, didn't miss starts. You want to stay healthy? You also want to learn from 5 guys that are bona fide studs at this point? There's a sales pitch here, Roki, and the Mariners have tied for the most international slot money to give you. I'm just saying.
And the ballpark is the best ballpark in baseball to pitch in, by far.
Yeah.
Throw the fastball and no one will see it.
No. Also,
pretty good pitch right there.
It is a pretty good pitch. Are we going to need to fly over to Tokyo and sales pitch this to him? Oh, somebody may have already done that.
Who is out there? Is it not a coincidence that Julio Rodriguez pops up in Tokyo this last week? Is it not?
Not just this last week. So, for those of you who are not chronically online like the two of us are, Julio posted on his Instagram story this weekend that he was in Tokyo. He posted that, I would say, 2 hours after it was announced that Roki Sasaki had been officially posted. Now, if you want to buy into conspiracy theories like we put out on social media this week, you could buy into that. The timing is very oddly specific. That's all I'll say. I don't care what you say back to us, Ryan Divish, sending us gifts of us putting on tinfoil hats, saying we're cooking things up. Yes, we are, for good reason. You think Julio just randomly planned a trip out there? He might have. It might have been a random trip. But if you like to believe, he could have been out there for a reason.
Like, you don't think Julio doesn't check his phone and see what the news is?
Mm-hmm. Listen, you know what? Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe Julio actually planned to go to Tokyo anyway, checks his phone, sees the news, calls up the Mariners and says, hey, I already just happened to be here. How do I get lunch with this guy? How can we sit down and grab a drink, grab lunch? We're the same age.
Or what if Julio just wanted to stir the pot and he's like, oh, let's cook something up.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guarantee you, Jerry, like, I don't know if Jerry knew his whereabouts, but let's say, like, Jerry's kid follows Julio on Instagram and saw his story and is like, oh, Dad, look, Julio's in Tokyo. And Jerry instantaneously is like dialing up Julio, saying, hey, man, I know you might be on vacation right now, but you're going to need to take a detour to the Chiba Lot Marines right now.
Yes. Oh, I looked it up, too, by the way. Chiba and Tokyo, only 45 minutes apart. So not crazy. Not crazy. Driving distance. Yeah, Jerry's kid definitely called him, told him that, and then insert SpongeBob meme. Jerry's like, write that down, write that
down. So that's a fascinating coincidence. I was scrolling down a Reddit thread of people picking the most hilarious places where Roki Sasaki could go. Yes, the Mariners were on that list. It's like the Guardians, the Rays, God, where else? Those
Are
probably be the three, right?
The Mariners are not that hilarious. They're not in the same boat as the Guardians and the Rays. Come on. They're on the West Coast. They can pitch. Ballpark's pitcher friendly. That is way less crazy than the Guardians and Rays.
To us, but to the general fan?
I still think it's way less crazy. I think most people would tell you the Mariners have a way better shot than the Guardians and the Rays. The Mariners have a ton of
Maybe Roki just likes Cleveland.
Well, he should ask
him and LeBron.
He should ask Ichiro his thoughts on Cleveland. I'm sure Ichiro will give him rave reviews.
Yeah. Hopefully he consults with Ichiro before going. Yeah, you know what Julio actually needs to do? He needs to show that he's there with Ichiro. Then stuff's going to get cooking.
Oh, that would be sick. If this week, then he posts a selfie with Ichiro in Japan. No, you know what they should do? If Julio really wants to stir the pot and he happened to see what we were cooking up on social media or what other people had tweeted out, what he should really do if he wanted to stir the pot, meet up with Ichiro and just happen to pick to go out to lunch, dinner, somewhere in Chiba and put that on your story. That would be hilarious.
And then he puts, as the caption, on the lookout.
Well, they could be sitting at some rooftop restaurant and they put on the lookout as just a way to stir the pot.
Okay, let's talk about how the Mariners can actually accommodate him. I think of this, Lyle, in two different scenarios. Two different ways the Mariners can accommodate Roki Sasaki. They can either trade someone from their starting rotation or go into next year with a six-man rotation. Two different options, but I see a scenario where both of them work. Which one's more realistic?
I'm trying to think which one really is more realistic. Face value, you would think it would be trading an arm to get a bat because the Mariners need offense. Breaking news that we're putting out here on the Marine Layer Pod, the Mariners need offense. So trading an arm to get a bat and signing Roki Sasaki would make logical sense if you sign him. But don't rule out a six-man rotation idea. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, now I'm going to circle back to what you said at the start of this segment when we were talking about how Roki's never thrown 160, 170 plus innings in his professional career. And if the Mariners feel like he needs to be built up, they could roll with a six-man rotation in year one with Roki. And that actually might work out in a lot of ways. Maybe the Mariners don't want to trade any of their arms this offseason. Maybe they're not ready to do it. But if you get to next winter, now you're talking about 2 years of club control with Logan Gilbert instead of 3, and you still have the inkling that he's not signing an extension, then maybe that's when you look to trade Logan Gilbert, and after Roki's thrown one season in a six-man rotation, gotten accustomed to Major League Baseball, built up some more innings, has a healthy season, doesn't have any more shoulder fatigue like he had a season ago, then Roki's ready to pitch in a five-man rotation after a year of it.
Honest question. Do you think the Mariners are a better baseball team if they roll with a six-man rotation with Roki Sasaki? Like a legitimately better baseball team. And before you answer me, just think about it this way. While, yes, the Mariners will get an extra turn in the rotation from someone who is a legitimate bona fide ace, but you're also going to be taking away valuable rest and rehabilitation for your bullpen. While this said ace is also going to be on an innings limit next year, in which case, even in a six-man rotation, there could be some starts where he only pitches like 4 innings. Who's pitching the 5th and the 6th inning when you're down a man in your bullpen? Who?
They'd figure that out. My answer is still
yes. You can't
yes.
figure it out. You don't have a roster spot for it.
The Mariners shuffled so many guys up and down between AAA and DFA and guys and putting them back on the roster.
That's not a good thing.
If you sign Roki Sasaki, I don't really care.
I don't think rolling with a six-man rotation makes your team that much better. I think trading a starter for a legit bat does.
So maybe that's what they do. But I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world to let Roki get accustomed to Major League Baseball either. Because don't you want the guy to be healthy?
I do want the guy to... I do, but you also need to take in consideration the rest of the guys on your team to stay healthy as well. And not even just the guys in the rotation. Let's just remember, too, what happens when you take a starting pitcher out of his regular routine. Like, it's not always, even with the extra day of rest, taking Bryce and George and Logan out of a regular pitching every fifth day routine throws them off. They might not pitch as effectively, and it messes them up. And it would also, in their sense, not exactly sell them that the organization is working in their best interests, Lyle. They're working in Roki's best interests, but with Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, who are in arbitration right now and trying to rack up innings, low ERA, high strikeouts to go pitch, that they're worth more money in arbitration and in free agency, while the Mariners are taking, 4 starts apiece away from everybody. That's not beneficial to the rest of the rotation, as much as it might seem for Roki Sasaki. It just depends how much you're willing to sacrifice for him. If the Mariners are willing to sacrifice that much for Roki Sasaki, then that's more realistic. But you need to take into consideration the guys in your bullpen and the other 5 guys in your rotation and how it affects them.
I have 2 pieces of information to respond with in terms of what you just said. Number 1, yes, you'd be catering to Roki Sasaki. It's the same way the Mariners were going to cater to Shohei. Flashback for people. You know what the Mariners said they were going to do if they signed Shohei back in 2017? Put Nelson Cruz back in the outfield a few days a week. Why? Because in spite of Nelly's atrocious defense at that point of his career, you were going to have Shohei Ohtani on your roster, hypothetically. You deal with it. Roki Sasaki is going to have a higher ceiling than anybody in this rotation, which is crazy to say because you're going to have multiple guys in this rotation finish top 10 in AL Cy Young voting this year. Roki's going to have a higher ceiling than all of them. So yes, you cater to Roki Sasaki if you sign him. That's why you're signing him. That's why you say he's worth it. Point number 2, you're talking about Logan and George wanting to build up innings, rack up strikeouts, build up value to go pitch elsewhere. I'm sure they do want that. But if they're not going to sign an extension with Seattle, and that may or may not have already been made clear at this point, what are you so worried about catering to them for if they're just going to walk?
That's a good point. What about the other 2?
Brian Woo's a guy that, look, he excelled. You know I love watching Brian Woo. He's my favorite guy in the rotation to watch. But I don't think he would be up in arms about more days rest. That seemed to be some of his issues early on, is maybe he just wasn't getting enough rest.
What about Bryce?
Maybe, but again, you have a chance to get a guy who's been comped to Jacob deGrom on your roster for essentially no money for 6 years. Yes, figure it out. You will tell these other guys, we're going to accommodate for this guy because he can help us get closer to a World Series. That's what matters.
I think they need to go all... So here's my to-do list if you sign Roki Sasaki. The first thing you're going to do is sign him. You're gonna go out. You're gonna get him to put ink to paper.
Yeah.
The second thing you're gonna do is you're gonna put every resource possible to find a market value trade package for one of your starters. You need to turn over every single stone possible to do that. And then last on the list would be implementing a 6-man rotation. Okay. I think that should be at the bottom of what you plan to do with Roki Sasaki.
Sure, because if you trade one of these arms, especially somebody like George or Logan, you're not getting back prospects. You're getting back the potential for an elite young bat. That's what it would be. Or just an elite player, period. This may not happen, but people have thrown out the idea in the past of Logan Gilbert and Ketel Marte both have 3 years of club control. Would you just do a player swap between those two? Probably not. I don't know if the Diamondbacks would agree to that. As of Monday here, Ketel just got named an MVP finalist. But something like that. So, yeah. Look, if the Mariners are going to find a market value trade partner for one of those guys after signing Roki Sasaki, great. I'm also just... The reason I've been arguing for the 6-man thing is one, thinking about if it could be best for Roki, but 2, also thinking about if you don't have the return you want back yet, what else do you do? Because if you sign him, that's a good problem to have. If you have to roll with a 6-man, that's a good problem to have. Because you'd have Roki Sasaki.
It's a good problem. I still would have a tiny bit of a concern about the bullpen, but like if they pitch it this way, if they say, if we can do a 6-man rotation, we won't need to skip a Roki Sasaki start this season, and we won't have to manage his innings within his starts, I would say okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm worried that even in a 6-man rotation, they'd have to do that a couple times, and you do have to bridge those innings, being a man down on the bullpen. So, we'll see. But point number one, you got to sign him.
Mm-hmm.
Got to sell him. Sell him on the park. Sell him on the city. Sell him on your development. Sell that you have his best interest in mind. And then go from there.
Sign me up. Get the sales pitch ready. Get the PowerPoints ready. Do what you got to do. Whatever you did for Shohei last time, double it. Go make it happen.
No,
you
throw
double
it out. No, you mean the first time?
Well, they were pretty close, so if you double it.
Yeah, but he said no.
So
whatever they tried, toss it out.
I'm saying make
Start
even
from
more of an
scratch.
effort. Make even more of an effort than you did the first time, because you were so close the first time.
Wasn't the pullback that they put in too much effort?
Was that it? Maybe.
Whatever they did for Shohei in 2017, I want them to put it onto a flash drive, all of it. Take the flash drive, go up to the top of the Space Needle, and then throw it as far as you can. Never look back. Start from scratch. Make it unique to Roki. Try and understand who he is as a person. And don't be weird. Please.
Just do the whole Stewie and Brian scene from Family Guy when they destroy Peter's surfing bird track, where they're just destroying it with a bat and kicking it. People that watch Family Guy will know what I'm talking about. That's if you're right that they should do nothing similar to that Shohei pitch, then yeah, destroy it.
Well, it didn't work.
But again, the fact you got so close makes me think maybe something resonated.
I guess. But you know what will be the biggest difference, I think, in this one is Kevin Mather won't be in the room.
Yeah. That's true.
that's a big start.
Uh-huh.
So, but whatever could have possibly turned Shohei away, just try and avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
Sell your development, sell the health of your rotation, sell that you have the pitcher's best interest in mind, and let Roki make his decision.
Yeah. Sign me right up. All right, we're going to get to Danny Wirchansky here in a minute. Before that, we're going to take a pause, talk to you guys about our friends over at Pagac's Pub 85, because it is our favorite place to go hang out with our friends, watch some sporting events. You guys know sports are in full swing right now. Football, basketball, hockey, etc. There's 20 TVs in the place, so whatever you're in the mood to go watch, you can go there and watch. You want to play pool, you can go play pool. You want to have some awesome food, you can do that. And if you want great happy hour deals, which try to find a better happy hour special than Pub 85 has, you're going to be hard-pressed to find it, because it's $3 and $4 drinks on Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. Again, $3 and $4 happy hour drinks, 2 to 6 p.m. on Monday through Friday. All of that is over at Pagac's Pub 85 in Kirkland.
I want you to pay attention, all of you listeners, to Danny Wirchansky's story. If you're in a part of your life where you feel like times are tough, and you're not getting what you want, and you want to quit, and you want to go do something else, and you're going to dodge chasing your dream, all those kinds of things. I want you to sit back. I want you to pay attention to the next 40 or so minutes of Danny Wirchansky and hear how much he had to overcome to get to where he is, leading the AA Texas League in ERA this year, in the Mariners rotation, in the Mariners AA rotation, which had the likes of Michael Morales, Logan Evans, Brandon Garcia, Reed Van Scooter, and all those other guys in that rotation. And he led them all in ERA, the entire league in ERA this year in his first year in the Mariners organization. A just incredible story of perseverance, dedication, playing in multiple countries to get to where he is right now. Just down-to-earth dude, awesome story, and you guys are going to love this interview.
Impossible not to root for him, I'll tell you that. And after you guys hear this interview, you're going to say the same thing. You also might be saying to yourself, I don't know that much about Danny Wirchansky. Maybe you've learned a decent bit about some of these other minor leaguers we've had on. But Danny, first year in the org, had a long journey, older guy, doesn't throw fireballs out of his left hand for fastballs. But I'll tell you this right now. Not only is it an awesome story, and are you going to have the easiest time in the world rooting for this dude moving forward, but there's a real world. He's in the big leagues next year. What role it's going to be? Well, we can't promise you that yet. There's just no way of knowing for sure. But when you lead the Texas League in AA, in ERA, and you pitch that well, there's a real world Danny Wirchansky's in the majors next year. And when he gets there, we're going to speak it into existence for him. You're going to want to know his story because it's really cool, so easy to root for. And then you can feel one step ahead of the game from everybody else once he gets called up. You can go to your friends and say, I know everything about this guy. I listened to an interview with him. He is the easiest guy in the world to root for.
So to hear more about that, stay tuned for the interview. We'll get you to it now with Danny Wirchansky.
All right, we've got Mariners minor league pitcher Danny Wirchansky on with us. We've now had every single guy in the AA rotation from 2024 on the pod. Danny completes it. You've got such a cool story, dude, and I feel like there's so much for people to get to know about you. But for Mariners fans who don't know a lot about you, I'll just start it with this. What's something about yourself, fun fact, that you'd want Mariners fans to know?
Just that, like, off-field wise, I would say, like, no one really knows I have a twin sister. And I was supposed to be a quadruplet.
Wow.
Really?
Identical, right?
Yeah, so we're not identical, but apparently there was supposed to be 4 of us, and obviously I guess something happened at birth, but yeah, so there's me and my sister were just twins, so that's one thing like no one really knows.
So two sets of twins in this interview. I'm an identical twin.
Really?
Pretty cool. Yeah. He has not filled in for me yet, but we'll see it. We'll see if I can pull it off. Well, do you think he can pull it off?
I'd know the difference because I've seen the two of you plenty, but to some of the listeners, honestly, there would be some people that would probably not realize it wasn't you till at least halfway through the pod. So yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I feel like you don't hear the quadruplets thing very often. How often does that even happen? Do you know?
Not much, I don't think. There's a kid I went to high school with who is a triplet, and then his younger siblings are twins. So it's pretty close, I guess you could say, but like still, you don't really hear quadruplets that much.
I know a little something about you just from talking to some people, and I was curious to hear about it. Did I hear through the grapevine your dad owns a pizza shop in New York City?
Yeah, so he owned it. He sold it probably like over a year ago. It's not in New York City, but it's like in Rockland County, so like 30 minutes outside Westchester.
So how does
Rockland...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, then you must have a pretty good idea of a good pizza rating. Good pizza ranking.
For sure. Like, we would get pizza in Little Rock, and like, I'd be like, I can't eat this. And everyone's like, giving me crap about it because it's like, dude, it's pizza. Like, you should enjoy pizza. But I'm like, I'm very like spoiled with good pizza and being in like the Northeast. So it's like, I'm not going to eat like Domino's. I'm not going to eat like a Papa John's. So like, that's stuff I like won't eat.
If it makes you feel better, I do the same thing here, pretty much.
Okay.
It's like there could be a lot better options to have available to you. Like once you go and have it, then once you go back to any other part of the country and have your standard slice.
Yep.
First of all, you can't get a slice. Second of all, it's not as good.
Yes.
So like there's the dichotomy of those two things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a ranking for us though? I'm curious what you think. You spend a lot more time in New York than Lyle and I, and we have our own ideas of what's the best over there. Do you have an idea?
Like actual place or like actual kind of style of pizza?
Like pick 3 places.
I mean, I know like the big one everyone talks about is the place in New Haven is like Frank Pepe's, and there's a couple places in the city. I don't go to the city much, so like I can't tell you like by name, but like obviously like Dave Portnoy has like a good review on like a lot of the places. I couldn't name you places in New York City, but I would say like when my dad owned it, I did like his pizza, even though I would like say like to people like, oh, it's not that good. But my dad's food was pretty good.
Did Dave ever review your guys' shop?
No, so like I always wanted him to, and I would never like reach out because like I don't know, it's just not my style. But I definitely would have thought it would have been cool to see what Dave would like give my dad's pizza place, but never got to it.
You should plug it, by the way, for anybody who either ever travels out to New York or maybe is listening to this in New York. What was it called?
It's Nikki's Pizza and Deli in Suffern.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, now we have a new spot for. I mean, TJ and I have all New York roots. We were talking about that before we hopped on, but now that we're out there, we have a new spot to try. Like the two of us really like Joe's. I mean, I know that's kind of the cliche one in New York City, but there's a million of them.
Yeah, and you have like a bunch of like Arthur Ave and stuff like that. So it's just like wherever you feel preference to. Like you can't really go wrong with a New York slice anywhere. So yeah, that's basically really it. You can't go wrong with anywhere in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of Mariner fans are probably unfamiliar with you, Danny. I mean, a lot of people, when they look at the AA rotation, they look at a couple more of the guys that are in the Mariners' top 30 prospects, but none of those guys had a lower ERA than you did this year. I mean, you had the ERA title of that Texas rotation and in the entire Texas League. And, like, for all of that, like, this was your first season in the Mariners organization. So could you give our listeners a bit of background, if they're not familiar, on your journey to Seattle, like a Spark Notes version of how you got there, because it's a long one.
Yeah. So I'll try to make it a little shorter. So I went to a small Division II school in New York, Pace University. Was drafted out of there my senior year by the Milwaukee Brewers. Flew down there, did the physicals, and ended up failing the MRI. No one ever told me what was wrong. So I flew home, went to my doctor, who's actually the Yankees doctor. He looked at it, said everything was fine. A month later, the Texas Rangers called, asked for the MRI, said everything was clean. They flew me down. They were going to sign me. Then they gave me my their own MRI. Failed theirs. They didn't tell me what was wrong. Sent me home. Went to the Yankees doctor, the Mets doctor, and Dr. Andrews. Sent them all my MRIs, and they all said there was nothing wrong. There was no tear. And Dr. Andrews and the Mets doctor said they wouldn't give me surgery. And then the Yankees doctor said, I'll give you surgery, even though there's no tear. So I got Tommy John without a torn ligament in September of 19. Rehabbed that, went through COVID rehabbing that, and then played in indie ball for like the team in my hometown for the next 2 years. The second year with them, I got signed. I got my contract purchased by the Arizona Diamondbacks, and then went down there and failed their MRI. So they sent me home even after Tommy John. And then went back to independent ball. And then I played winter ball in Puerto Rico in 2023. Ended up going to the Caribbean Series in Venezuela. And then played in a different indie ball league in 23. Went to winter ball again in Puerto Rico. Then ended up finishing the season in the Dominican. And then went back to the Caribbean Series in Miami. Got to play at Lone Depot. And then I was signed to go to Mexico and play in the summer. And then, like right after the Caribbean Series, Seattle called and signed me. So that's how I got with Seattle.
Let's go back to the beginning of that, when you initially got drafted in the 25th round. You had two different MRIs with the Brewers and the Rangers, and you said there's nothing wrong with your elbow. They had an MRI, and they, for some reason, would not give you the contract. Like, what is that moment like? Like, how do you process something like that? It's like, there's nothing wrong. You thrown in college, you've thrown well, you've been stretched out. You're like, I'm good to go, and the teams are just decide not to do it. Like, I've never heard that before. Not really.
Yeah, it was tough because, like, again, I had no pain, no discomfort. Didn't miss a start. I even came out of the pen like on like some of my bullpen days in college, and like had no issues. And then just hearing all that was just kind of defeating because it's like, I got like my childhood dream getting drafted and like seeing my name on the draft board and being with an MLB organization, and then kind of just like went away. And I don't know, I was ready to hang it up. And luckily, obviously, you saw like the 90 Feet Away podcast with Eric Holtz. I went into his facility asking for a job, and he told me that he wouldn't give me a job unless I got the surgery. He said if I was a lefty throwing 90 miles an hour, I'd be playing forever. So he was kind of like the main reason why I got Tommy John and continued playing.
So then the story of actually getting signed with the Mariners is pretty cool, because you were playing in the Caribbean Series for the second time down in, this time it was in Miami, this past, I guess, late winter. And the Mariners signed you essentially out of that. And I heard that Yadi Molina, your manager on the Puerto Rican team you were playing on, was a big reason for that. How many? What are the details of that? How did Yadi help?
Yeah, so in the winter of 2023, I think it was, 2022, right before this summer season started, I went down for a workout with the Kansas City Royals in Surprise. Threw really well, spoke to the scout, and he was just like, yeah, it's a numbers thing. There's not enough room for minor leaguers. I would really love to sign you, but we don't have room. We'll keep in touch, this and that. So then his contract ended with Kansas City and apparently ended up being a scout, like an indie ball scout for the Seattle Mariners. So I reached out to him after the Caribbean Series too and was just like, hey, I'm starting to play in Mexico. I really want to, obviously, affiliate ball is still my goal. If there's any spots. So I sent him a bunch of video from my time in Puerto Rico, the Dominican, and even the Caribbean Series. And he was down in Miami. And apparently he was talking to Yadi about me, and Yadi had nothing but great things to say about me as a pitcher and I guess as a person and stuff like that. And I got a call from my agent one day and he was just like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. And he's like, you should be great. The Mariners want to sign you. And then it was just getting my release from Mexico since I signed there, and then just waiting for that to happen, and then waiting for the contract from Seattle, and that was really it.
It's kind of you're sitting there and thinking, Yadier Molina, one of the best catchers to ever play Major League Baseball, is out here vouching for me to go into an organization. How does that feel? From
looking back at it, where I was, it's I would have never thought that Yadi Molina would be vouching for me. It's just I would never see that happening. And then him actually doing it, I'm very grateful for him. I texted him right after I signed. I was just want to let you know, Seattle signed me. And he was wish you all the best, this and that. Good luck with everything. And I don't know. I mean, I'm very grateful for him even doing that. He didn't have to do that by any means. And for him to see something in me, obviously, is I really appreciate it. So I'm very grateful for Yadi Molina.
Tell me if I heard this right throughout that story, is when you were trying to get yourself a contract and get yourself with a pro team, you yourself had to do a lot of the reach out and do some networking with people. Am I hearing that right?
So I had a glimpse of that, that Seattle wanted, had interest in me. And then I found out that the scout that was with the Royals, who I threw for at their workout, was with Seattle. So I ended up texting him and was just like, hey, how are you? And then just kind of told him, I'm looking to play affiliate ball still. I know, obviously, I'm listed as broken. I'm listed as a broken arm, but I'm still looking to play. You saw me throw before, this and that. And I guess he sent my name up the grapevine, and yeah, kind of just got my name up to the top and got me a contract.
That's so interesting because I almost feel like that's a little bit like how a lot of the top end 5-star recruits have to go about finding a place to play in college, which people probably don't realize that happens in professional baseball, but clearly from you talking about it, it happens. We're sure the top end guys don't have to lift a finger. They get found just from their play. But for somebody like you, or for somebody that's a lower level college recruit that's trying to find a place to play, you have to send all these emails and reach out to all these coaches and network with them and get on the phone with them. Did you ever think you'd be doing that in professional baseball?
No, not at all. And I took affiliated baseball off my radar. I was just you know what, every team's going to look at me as broken, so I'm going to try to go play wherever I can and make the most money. And however many years left I have of playing this game, I'm just going to try to enjoy and make as much money and go from there. And then once I stopped worrying about trying to get into affiliate ball, that's when an affiliate ball team kind of gave me the opportunity. So again, very grateful for Seattle even giving me the opportunity and letting me prove that I should be there and be in the org.
So you get to Arkansas, and it had blossomed into one of the best rotations in baseball, or in minor league baseball, by the end of the season. What was the growth of the relationship between all of you guys over the course of the season? When did it really start? And then when did you realize, man, we really do have something here. This is pretty cool.
I mean, I feel our pitching staff all year was just unbelievable. Everyone threw the ball really well. I actually struggled the first month. It was bad. I think I had an 11 ERA to start the first month. And I was bouncing back and forth, starting, relieving. But just watching guys from the beginning, it was watching Logan Evans just carve every lineup with 6+ pitches and mid-high 90s fastball was just obviously very impressive to watch. Watching Juan Mercedes, just the most consistent human being on the mound. And even like I've seen it in college summer ball, but like even in pro ball, like Reed Van Scooter like threw really well. And then obviously we had the mix of like Blas Castano before he got moved up to Tacoma. Raul Alcantara was bouncing back and forth from starting and relieving, and then we ended up calling up Brandon Garcia and Mikey Morales, and both of them just kept their tear going from high A to double A, and it was just really fun to watch like the starting roles like do really well. And even like when Jimmy Joyce was starting and then moved to the pen, like everyone was just kind of clicking and like everyone gelled off each other. It was like really fun to watch.
So Morales told us he likes to talk crap and he likes to chirp to his teammates. What was the first thing he chirped you about?
Mikey never really chirped me. That's the funny thing. Mikey never chirped me. I think he would go more after like Logan Evans. He would go after like Garrett Davila and stuff like that. So he would go after like those guys. Yeah, Mikey never really chirped me. It was more like kind of like, I don't know. Mikey never really had like chirps for me, but I'm hoping next year he does, and maybe we get a little more comfortable since like we're getting to know each other more. But yeah, definitely didn't chirp me.
Is that just because you're the old guy in the rotation? He's like, well, I'm new here, and I'm one of the youngest, so
no,
I can't piss him off.
Yeah, well, no, because even like Garrett Davila is an older guy too, and like he would chirp Davi too. So it was kind of like Mikey would just be comfortable, be himself, and like just I don't know. For some reason didn't chirp me, but hopefully going into spring training, like we'll be chirping each other back and forth here and there.
Here's what we picked up from afar, and you can give us a better review of how close our accuracy is on this. So, like, when you think about the rotation in Double A and all the different personalities, we've picked up Logan, Morales. Those two are the louder, kind of more outgoing, not afraid to chirp people guys. Garcia is a little more on the quiet side, at least from how it seems.
Yep.
Van Scooter, man, you know him better than we do. I mean, you played with him for so long.
Yeah.
He's like, he seems like he's really smart. Maybe a tiny bit more on the quiet side. And then I'm still trying to kind of figure out here. But like, how off are we on that?
No, you're pretty spot on. Like Van Scooter will try to get like push people's buttons by doing like little like stupid stuff. Nothing like that's like annoying, but like just kind of like he's not like a chirper like how Mikey Morales is and stuff like that. Like him and Logan Evans will go back and forth for days in the locker room. Like when football season started, everyone was just going back and forth. But yeah, you kind of nailed it on the head. I'm more of like the wiry guy on field, and I'm kind of quieter off field. But that's just me, at least.
What do you do during football season? Does Pace have a team?
Pace has a team. I really hate saying it. They're not that good. So like I never really went to football games when I was at Pace. Like if I was going to games, it would probably be I'd probably say we went to more like men's basketball, women's basketball. Yeah, that was really it. We really didn't go to like a lot of sporting events. Again, being like a small Division II school wasn't like really anything like we wanted to go do. It was just like kind of hang out, do our thing, like, and that's it.
But you could be like the New York thing where you just pick up Rutgers.
Yeah, but like everyone, like I have like buddies who like would watch Clemson football, who will watch like Florida football and stuff like that. So like no one really cared about like going to watch Pace University play football because it's like you'd rather watch ACC, SEC schools versus Northeast 10 Division II baseball or football.
Who were those two chirping about during football season? Because Morales didn't go to college. I'm assuming it's NFL stuff.
It was NFL stuff because that's when they were all starting their like whole fantasy football league and like who got what pick and like what guys that they wanted to get and like I don't know. I'm not a big football person, so I couldn't tell you like who they're talking about. They could talk about Michael Strahan and like I wouldn't even. Obviously, I know Michael Strahan's not playing anymore, but it's like the point. Like I don't really follow football that much, so I kind of let everyone else do their thing, and I kind of sat there, played cards and stuff like that.
All right, I'm going to try and gauge your level here. You know who Daniel Jones is, then I assume.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. That would be like a New York guy should know who Daniel Jones is. That would be good.
Yeah.
They didn't just force you to play and be like, "We need an easy win, Danny. You're playing."
Yeah. No.
Fantasy football.
They asked me to, and I'm like, listen, I'm not wasting my money knowing that I'm going to lose. I'm not going to win, so it's just me giving you guys money, so I'm okay. They got mad, obviously, but they found other guys to replace.
let me ask you this. You said not a lot of people would go to Pace Athletic events. Were there people in the stands the day you threw your 16 strikeout perfect game?
Mostly parents. It was like parents and like siblings, really. There was really not many people there. And it was also freezing. It was like March 1st, so there was like snow still on the ground, and yeah, so no one really wanted to be there.
Let me ask you this. When you have an outing like that, which, by the way, how many, not just pitchers, but people, doesn't have to be a professional pitcher, in their lives, can not only say they've thrown a perfect game, but then when you rack up 16 strikeouts, how does that happen? Are you just standing there thinking, like, this is the most dominant I've ever felt in my whole life?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, it just felt like everything you threw like wasn't getting touched. It was like almost like invisible in a sense, but I don't know. It was just one of those freak things, and a lot of luck happens too. So I don't know. It just happened, I guess. I can't really explain. Obviously, a perfect game is a perfect game, but it's hard to really explain like how it happened.
So you and the Mariners really hit it off well when it came to your pitching style and what they wanted to see from you as a pitcher, and evident, and having a sub-3 ERA across an entire season in the Texas League is pretty cool. What do you think works so well between you and the organization?
I think that the org does a tremendous job with like developing pitchers and like really working on like things with pitchers. Like for instance, like I went into spring training with throwing a cutter, and my first bullpen was with my pitching coach in Double-A, Michael Peoples, and he was like, "No, it's terrible. We're getting rid of it. We're going to sink it and sweep it." I said, "Okay." So I struggled with those two pitches right off the bat, even going into the season. I just like, I really told him, I was like, I want to like can the sinker. I can't do it. And like, he's like, we're going to keep working on it. Kind of broke everything down a little, made it a little easier, and just kind of told me like, you don't have to throw like the perfect sinker to like throw a sinker. Just trust it and throw it. And like the confidence built over time. And I don't know, just being able to like have like that reassurance and confidence in me from someone else kind of built my confidence a little more, and kind of just helped me move forward throughout the year.
So your sinker, sweeper, curveball, or is it just sinker, sweeper?
Yeah, so it's four-seam, sinker, curveball, sweeper, changeup.
That curveball hooks a lot.
Would you say that's your best pitch?
I would say my changeup, based on like everything the Mariners have, I would probably say like on their scale, like my curveball is probably listed better, but feel-wise and being able to throw it at any time, I would say my changeup is probably my best pitch.
So when you signed with them this year, did they give you any indication of what type of role they'd have for you? Like, did you expect to throw as many innings as you did when you got to Double-A this year?
Yeah, so they told me they wanted me to come in as a starter. So I kind of knew, like, obviously starters are going to have the most innings out of everyone in the whole pitching staff. But even as a guy who was flipping back and forth from starting and relieving, whether it was long relief, short appearance, whatever, like I knew I was going to be at a high like innings count. But yeah, I think I ended with like 111 at the end of the season, and I kind of expected that. When I got pushed to the bullpen the first time, I was like, okay, I'm probably not even going to reach like 80 innings. But as I kept flip-flopping, I knew, like, obviously, like, innings are going to go up. I'm throwing, like, 3 to 4 innings out of the bullpen. I'm throwing, like, 5 to 6 as a starter. So I knew my innings were going to get pretty high.
And on top of, all that, when you get to the Mariners organization, we know the Mariners are one of the more forward-thinking organizations, especially when it comes to pitching and utilizing numbers. But you're not a huge numbers person. Did you grow on that a little bit this year, on what kind of information they presented you and how you would use it?
Yeah, for sure. Like, we would have, like, a bunch of player plan meetings and stuff like that throughout the course of the season, and, like, kind of just break down everything I'm doing and, like, what they want me to do and, like, how well I'm doing what they want me to do, and, like, make adjustments off that. And, like, just those meetings alone really helped, like, me as a pitcher throughout the whole season, because it's like, okay, it's giving me confidence in what I'm doing well and, like, things to fix, like, to move forward and get better at. So it's kind of like, obviously, like, don't fix what's broken, and, like, obviously keep improving on, like, what we're working on.
Would you still sit out there and watch the other team take batting practice, though, even with all that?
Yeah, so, like, I would go out there, and, like, our guys would be, like, messing around, throwing the football around, whatever, and, like, some of our guys will be throwing side sessions, and I'll be out there in, like, my slides and shorts and, like, a t-shirt, and just, like, out there. Then even, like, when they're out there for a little bit, I'll go outside and, like, watch their swings, because I don't really like sitting down and doing, like, actual in-depth like meetings, but like they're useful. But like for me, like I overthink that stuff way too much. I'd rather see someone swing versus like a scouting report, because obviously like my stuff's different than Van Scooter's. My stuff's also different than like a Logan Evans, a Brandon Garcia. So like I'm not gonna compare like stuff like that too. And like obviously first time around, like in the year, like first series of the year was against Springfield. Like I don't know anything about them. They don't know anything about me. So it's like kind of like take what they have to say and like what they're showing me and kind of like go about it how they want me to, and then make the adjustments on the fly in game and go from there.
You said your coaches I think in college when it's like cold out, I'm thinking in the spring, like it's here in the Northwest, it's like 30, 40 degrees out.
Yep.
Everyone's trying to stay warm inside and you're still out there on a day you're pitching. It's like trying to get, you need to get warm, but like you're in the complete opposite environment just to try and gain an advantage. I thought that was fantastic. Like you are kind of an old soul in a modern game now.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, like, I mean, you hear most guys now think about, like, you hear guys in high school talking about spin rate and talking about how they're tuned in on all this stuff before they even get to the draft or get to college. But for you, it sounds like just kind of pitch and feels what works.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a guy who's going to light up the radar gun by any means, but, like, I'm going to be a guy who's going to spin the ball and try to, like, just locate and get weak contact and get my occasional strikeout. But mostly it's just, like, try to get ahead and hopefully they don't hit it too hard.
Who'd you watch growing up to, let's say, model yourself after?
I liked watching a lot of like Cliff Lee and stuff like that.
Mariners legend.
Obviously, being a Yankees fan growing up, like I would watch Andy Pettitte. Obviously, he threw a little bit harder, but like watching Andy Pettitte was obviously really fun to watch. But I would watch a lot of like Cliff Lee and stuff like that. My dad always references Greg Maddux to me, so it's like I would just like kind of like watch stuff like that, because obviously they're not the guys who were like lighting up the radar gun, but they knew how to pitch.
You know, I look at your pitching motion and let me know. I assume you know who this is. You know who Alex Wood is. I think you look a little bit like Alex Wood.
The little hitch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm glad you see it too. It's unique.
Mm-hmm.
It's unique arm slot, especially for lefties, but you know, it's worked for Alex Wood, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it works for me, and hopefully it gets me to the big leagues, and that's all I could really ask for.
Okay, so it sounds like you grew up a pretty big baseball fan then, because you're not talking about a lot of football, but you knew every player we just threw out. It sounds like you grew up watching guys. It sounds like you're a big baseball guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Did I say you were at a couple Yankees playoff games this fall too?
Yeah, so me and my girlfriend went to the ALCS? It was game one of the CS, so we went to go watch that against the Guardians, and that was pretty fun. I got to actually meet up with one of my college roommates over there, so we kind of just were sitting in the bleachers watching the game, freezing to death. But no, it was fun. Again, you got to watch like Carlos Rodon throw, and then just see a big league game in person is always fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, because now you've had a full season in the minors. You certainly spent your time in indie ball. People talk about their minor league stories and what it's like trying to grind through minor league baseball, but you'd have a good take on this. What are the differences between indie ball and the minors, just between hotels, food, travel, etc.?
Yeah, well, for starters, like indie ball doesn't pay as well as affiliate ball does. Also, like hotels in indie ball are like whatever, you'll get like a Holiday Inn or whatever. Baseball wise, it's like basically on your own, like do what you need to do to get yourself prepped for your game. Like affiliate ball, like you go, like obviously spring training, like everything's so organized. Even in season, it's like super organized. Like get here around this time to like do your stuff. You have this at this time and like this at that time, and then you have a little bit of downtime before the game. Like indie ball is just like kind of like get there, do what you need to do, and whenever like whatever it is, like that's it, and get ready for the game.
What about the difference between indie ball and winter ball? Like, I want to get into your winter ball story a little bit, because like some of the Caribbean big leaguers, Puerto Rican, Dominican, etc. Those guys will go play winter ball sometimes down in their native countries. But you playing indie ball took it as an opportunity to go get some more innings and showcase a little bit more. So first, in the general question, could you compare indie ball to winter ball then?
Yeah, so I would say winter ball is more. It's like a hybrid of both affiliate ball and indie ball. Like it's still like kind of like structured, but it is like a good amount of like on your own. Like you don't have like a scheduled lift time. Like you don't have to lift like on a certain day. It's like if you want to lift, you lift. If not, then so be it. Basically, like you go out at a certain time, you throw. And then the one thing about winter ball that I loved is like you didn't have to shag batting practice. So like you throw, and they'll have like a bunch of like of the clubbies and like random people just out there shagging batting practice for you. So like once you get your throwing done, you go inside, you shower, and you wait for the roster to come up. And if you're on the roster, you stay. If you're not on the roster for that night, then you get to go back to the hotel and do whatever you want to do.
And on the off days, you can go to the beach.
Yeah, like in Puerto Rico, we had a beach like right in our backyard, so it was like it was pretty cool. You just walk right outside barefoot and just go right to the beach. So it was fun.
What were those environments like with the fans?
It was fun. So like playoff baseball out there is extremely intense. Like it's not really like the U.S. style of baseball where it's like fans are just screaming like during like big moments. Like they're screaming the entire game, and it's just like obviously I don't understand the language like as well, but like they're yelling stuff at you. They're like cheering for you, and it's just like a really like it's an exciting time like when you're playing out there. Because it's like everyone's right on top of you too. It's not like it's just like you have a lot of room like at like a big league stadium.
That's crazy. Okay, I have two bookend questions here for you because you're talking about we're going through a little bit of your journey again. Number one, when you're going through this whole path and trying to make your way to affiliated ball, you went through some hard stuff and you talked about it. Like, were there points at, especially being 26, you hadn't thrown a pitch in affiliated ball yet, were there points where you said to yourself, okay, maybe baseball just isn't for me anymore? Or did you say, I don't care, I'll keep playing indie ball, I'll keep playing winter ball, etc.? Like, how did you take that?
Yeah, so obviously after like the third time with the Diamondbacks, I was just like, okay, like every organization's going to see me listed as a broken arm. So I was just like, let me find ways to like make good money playing baseball and enjoy like however many years left I have of playing the game, and play like in winter ball where you get paid a lot more and stuff like that, and play baseball all year round. And I don't know, I kind of just was like, let me find ways to like navigate myself to like obviously make connections in the game and kind of just like make money that way too, because I don't want to stop playing baseball. I enjoy playing, so being able to like play in Puerto Rico, play in the Dominican, and I signed before signing with Seattle. I signed to play in Mexico, so I was going to go play in Mexico for the summer, and it's just like obviously like just trying to find ways that way. But yeah, I kind of took affiliated ball out of my mind because again, I was listed as broken to every other like organization, I guess, besides Seattle.
Which is crazy to say because now here we sit, right? And you led the Texas League in ERA. There's a real world in 2025 where you're pitching in the big leagues, which is awesome, and it's a wild journey. But even to take you back to your minor league season last year, again, I said I was going to kind of bookend these questions. With all that, in July last year, you won Pitcher of the Month in the Texas League. Was that the first time where you felt to yourself, oh, people are starting to notice what I'm doing? People are noticing that not only can I hang an affiliated ball, but I'm kind of dominating here in affiliated ball.
No, yeah, because especially that was like right after I struggled the first month, so it was just kind of like I had like doubts. Like I was like, oh, this is it. Like I'm gonna get released, like a free agent sign. Like they're not spending a lot of money on me. I'm not a prospect, so it's like they could just easily send me home. And I got reassurance from my pitching coach and like the mental coach and stuff like that, and it kind of just like not flipped the switch, but like kind of just like I don't know, gave me the confidence to go out there and just be myself and like kind of relax and play baseball again and not treat it like a job. And I don't know, kind of just made it easier on me.
I got a couple more for you too before we wrap it up with 5 fun questions. Back to winter ball. You had some memorable matchups with a very famous Mariner and a very famous Yankee, Robinson Cano, guy you grew up watching.
Yep.
What was his average against you?
Oh, he's batting 1,000.
Well, and how many hits?
3.
Okay. No, 3 for 3 with 3 doubles against you.
Yep.
When you're standing on the mound and Robbie steps into the batter's box, what's going through your mind?
The first time when he got the hit, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. It's Robinson Cano. I watched him my whole life. Second time, obviously I got a little mad. The third time I was like, I need to get him out. There's no other option. And then even like the third time I got called for a pitch clock violation because the pitch comm in the Dominican wasn't working. So I got pitch clocked and made it a full count. So I was like, great, now I got to groove him a fastball here. And I'm not throwing a Brennan Garcia 97 sinker. So I got to throw my little helium ball, and he hits it into left center for a double. And I was like, well, he's 3 for 3.
And you said before we started recording that you never wanted to like go up and like and bug him because you know he's Robinson Cano and everyone's just trying to play and it's all business. But like, if you had the opportunity again, would you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would probably bring a baseball and be like, hey, can you sign this? You're batting 1,000 against me, and just
kind
of make a
that
joke
on
out
here.
of it. Yep.
Hitting 1,000 against Danny. Last thing on your indie ball, like before affiliated ball journey. So the Savannah Bananas, as Lau and I have talked about actually a little bit on our podcast earlier this offseason, are going to come to Seattle next September. I think I have that right. September 2025. So Danny, if you're up in Seattle by then, maybe you could, if you're not pitching that day, you can go back and hang out with the Savannah Bananas because you got to play against them twice.
Yep.
When you were in
Charleston.
in Charleston. What is Banana Ball like on the other side?
Personally, it's great. They're doing great stuff. I personally didn't like it due to the fact that we were getting ready for a season. Like, it's part of our spring training, and like indie ball spring training is nowhere near the same as affiliated ball spring training. Like indie ball spring training is literally a week and a half. And obviously, like affiliated ball is like a month and a half. So like we're playing our few games to get ready for opening day, and we're playing banana ball where music's playing the whole entire game. You have a clock going, a 2-hour clock. You have their rules. It's their umpire. So like I threw a pitch 3-2 right down the middle, and he called it ball 4. And their rules are, if you walk the guy, he gets to run around the bases as fast as he can until everybody on the team touches the ball, and then you could try to tag him out. So it's just like, I don't know. It was just a little much with the rules, but like I have buddies who I played with. I have coaches who coached me in Charleston who are like either playing in banana ball or coaching in banana ball. So if I'm in Seattle in 2025 and they're there, I'll definitely stop by because I'd love to see those guys again.
All right, let's see how your skills are in these aspects. Your dancing skills?
Oh, horrible.
Can you do a backflip?
No.
Can you go on stilts?
Maybe.
Could you do stilts on a diamond?
No.
Could you reach 1 million TikTok followers?
No. Definitely not.
All right, so maybe you were destined to play pro baseball anyway, not banana ball. Last one I've got for you, then we'll transition. When the season's starting to come close to its end, and you've had the season you've had, are you on MILB.com at all? And you're checking the ERA boards in the Texas League? You're in the trust tree here. You can tell us being like...
No, honestly,
never.
I didn't. Like, my dad will tell me, like, my stats, and, like, I kind of hate when he does that. But, like, it was the last game in Northwest, and I threw my 1 inning, and I come off the mound, and my pitching coach, Michael Peebles, comes up to me and goes, congratulations, you led the Texas League in ERA. And that was just, like... That was really it. And obviously, like, we clinched the playoffs, so I was more worried about, like, getting ready for playoffs and obviously winning a championship than, like, worrying about an ERA title.
You were, yeah. You know what? Like TJ said, you're an old soul. You're really not a numbers guy. I commend you for it. We're like, if it was me in that situation, I'd be checking every single day. So, because I'm like, I'd be OCD about that stuff. So
yeah, if I didn't have the ERA title, then whatever. If we won a championship, that was more important to me. We're going to get a ring for it, so that was obviously more important. That's going to be more memorable to me than my own accolades. Obviously, like, everyone's going to remember the 2024 Travs over Danny Wirchansky winning the AA Texas League ERA title. So I feel like that's more important.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. Okay, I think we've got 5 fun questions to wrap up with you, Danny, just so Mariners fans can get to know a little bit more about you. We usually do the same 5 with most of the guys we'll have on. But our first one for you, your go-to pregame and postgame meal is what?
So usually, like, they'll get us, like, several different things. But, like, I loved when we got, like, tropical smoothie. Like, that was obviously the easiest one and like the best one because you get a smoothie and you get like a little flatbread and like it's something light. I don't like eating heavy before a game, so that was definitely my favorite pregame.
What about postgame?
Postgame, we actually had one of the chefs. I think he was a chef for Midland, and we kind of took him for a little bit. And he would make like smash burgers on Sunday day games, so like we would do that, which was pretty cool, pretty good. And then like other times it was like either like a Moe's or Chipotle's like style food, so it was like it was pretty good too. Those were probably my top two.
Are you like a heavy eater?
Yeah.
All right. Next question for you. Your top 3 favorite TV shows ever are?
Top 3 favorite TV shows. I'm a huge fan of The Office. Trying to think of like I'm a young kid at heart. I loved SpongeBob growing up, so like that's another one. And then trying to think of another one. TV show probably like I'd probably say like a South Park, Family Guy type of deal. Yeah.
That sounds right up my alley. South Park, Family Guy, SpongeBob, and The Office.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite character from The Office?
I would probably say either Dwight or Jim.
Okay. And then how about favorite SpongeBob episode?
Probably what was it, the Bubble Bowl or whatever? Yeah, that was kind of funny to me.
That clip still resurfaces everywhere, even today on social media and everything, which is crazy.
Yep.
Third question, if you weren't playing baseball, what do you think you'd be doing?
Probably flipping pizzas.
New Yorker at heart.
Yep.
So, like, you can make a good pizza.
I can make pizza. Like, me and my girlfriend, we did, like, homemade pizzas one night. And, like, I was showing her, like, I'm not a cook by any means. She always cooks for me. So, like, that was one thing I kind of took her through. It was kind of, like, cool. Like, the roles were reversed. So that was kind of funny. So, like, yeah, pizza's something I can make.
Okay, next question I have for you. Your favorite and least favorite baseball road trips you've ever taken?
Oh, I would probably say it's a tie between the bus ride to Midland or when I was in Indie Ball, we would go from New York to Quebec, Canada, and we would leave at like 4 a.m. Jeez. And it was still like an 8-hour bus ride. So
on the day of the game,
we would play the same day.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Although I will say that the bus ride to Midland, we heard a couple of the guys say it was really long, but they said it was really fun too.
It's fun because like guys will play like cards or guys will play like Mafia, like the little bus, like we play bus games like that. So like it kind of like kills time, but then like we'll stop at like a Buc-ee's and stuff like that and just kind of like eat and like hang out. And a lot of guys will sleep. Like myself, I would sleep a lot. So stuff like that. Just try to keep your mind off of the fact that you're on the bus for 10 hours.
Fair. Last one for you. If you were to make your big league debut today, what would your entrance song be?
I don't know. I mean, this year I had the song Broke Boys by Drake as my song. I would have to think about what I would do for next year. I don't know.
Would you keep it as Broke Boys, or you think you need something? You think you'd be like, oh, let's even step it up a little bit more? Probably
step it up a little bit more, but I don't know. I'd have to actually dive into my phone and look at my playlist and see which songs I would use and what I try to find songs that aren't like terrible to use, like where it's like easy to find a clean version, I would say, but I would have to like dive into my phone and look for through my playlist a bit.
All right, you're diligent about it, which I appreciate. Some guys are like, yeah, I'll let my wife or girlfriend pick the song, but clearly you're like, no, if I'm going to make a big league debut, I want to remember the song I walked out to, which I would be in the same boat. I think most fans would be too.
Yep.
Danny, this has been awesome. Hopefully Mariners fans have gotten to know a ton more about you. I'll say this, if people are not rooting their tails off for you after hearing everything about you on this interview, I don't know what to tell people, because I think and I'll say when for your sake, you make your debut, you're going to be about the easiest story in the world to root for. So thanks for sharing it with us. Thanks for taking the time, and we can't wait to watch you keep thriving.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Well, I hope you guys just got to learn a lot about Danny, because as we said before this interview started, we'll continue to say it after the interview's concluded. What a cool story. And there is a real world. He is pitching at T-Mobile Park for the Seattle Mariners in 2025. We are going to continue to root for exactly that to happen and continue to root him along in his journey, because He is, one, really good, and two, extremely easy to root for. So we appreciate all the time he gave us, and we're looking forward to seeing what Danny has in store in 2025. With that, that'll just about wrap up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. You want to listen to the full form podcast, you can do so wherever you get your audio pods. Make sure to download, make sure to rate and review 5 stars. It helps us out a ton if you do that. If you're on YouTube watching, make sure to like, comment, and especially subscribe. That's the best way you can support us in the channel. Subscribe on YouTube. And on social media, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. Go sign Roki, and we'll talk to you soon.